Today, we are going to talk about the most common myths about the PS5 that started circulating even before its release and are still relevant today. The first myth is that you can't place the PlayStation 5 vertically. About a year and a half ago, news started spreading on many websites and in comments that if you place the PlayStation 5 vertically, liquid metal would leak out. Let me remind you that in this generation of consoles, Sony's engineers decided to use liquid metal for cooling instead of thermal paste. Liquid metal is more effective at dissipating heat, although it costs 3 times more. The panic started after a video on a foreign YouTube channel where the author showcased an issue with liquid metal on the PlayStation 5. After that, many began claiming that the console should not be placed vertically. When I heard about this, I realized that this information was unreliable. You can position the console however you want and the liquid metal won't go anywhere. It's applied in a thin layer and sealed tightly, so it physically can't leak out. If this kind of problem existed, Sony wouldn't have allowed it, and if it had, we would have already known about it since these defects tend to appear in large numbers, like with the red ring of death on the Xbox 360. In this case, it was most likely an isolated incident. Perhaps the console was damaged from a fall or impact which could have caused deformation and the metal to leak. This could potentially lead to a short circuit considering the properties of liquid metal. The video author simply documented the occurrence but made a loud conclusion that the PS5 was bad, which sounds like an exaggerated negative review. The console can be placed however you like, vertically, horizontally, or even mounted to the ceiling. The liquid metal will stay in place and effectively cool the system without leaking. There's nothing to worry about. The second myth that's often found on the internet is that the PS5 only supports 30 FPS in games. This was true for the previous generation of consoles, but not for the PS5. Nevertheless, some people continue to repeat this myth. In reality, more than 90% of major games offer a choice: 30 FPS with high resolution, or 60 FPS with slightly lower image quality. The difference in graphics is usually minimal, and in many games such as Mortal Kombat 1, Atomic Heart, and Dead Island 2, 60 FPS is available by default. Moreover, on the PS5, if you have a high refresh rate monitor, some games like Doom, Apex Legends, Fortnite, or Call of Duty can reach 120 FPS, which makes gameplay even smoother. It will be interesting to see the PS5 Pro, which has already been announced, where neural networks will likely improve graphics and image smoothness. Even on the current version of the console, 30 FPS in new projects is rare. Now, even in smaller games, there's an option between quality and performance, and everyone can choose what's more important to them. Personally, in games like God of War or Spider-Man, I care more about 4K graphics. I've played and continue to play games at 30 FPS without any problems. But if FPS is more important to you, those same games can be played at 60 FPS. And on screens with high refresh rates, games like Spider-Man and God of War can even push beyond 60 FPS. Now let's move on to another myth: stealth in bushes. This is how Sony games are often described, as most of their projects are third-person action-adventure games. Some of them do indeed have stealth elements, and bushes and grass are simply part of the environment, like in Horizon, where the setting justifies it. But as soon as Sony announces a new game from one of its studios, haters immediately comment with things like, "Oh, here we go again with stealth in bushes." However, there's a nuance. Stealth in bushes is found in only a limited number of games. Yes, Days Gone has it, along with dozens of other mechanics. Death Stranding also includes stealth elements. Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon, and The Last of Us. These games do indeed feature stealth. Sometimes you can hide in Uncharted, but it's not a core mechanic. On the other hand, games like Bloodborne don't have any stealth at all. I know Bloodborne isn't from a Sony studio, but it's exclusive to the PS4 and PS5, so it can be considered part of the catalog. Now let's remember other games: Infamous, Detroit, Drive Club, Gran Turismo, Knack, Ratchet & Clank, Gravity Rush, Killzone, Sackboy, Spider-Man, God of War. The Order, 1886 Until Dawn. Where's the stealth in bushes in any of these titles? Yet some players stubbornly believe that all Sony games boil down to stealth in the grass, and that's frustrating. Many of these projects are true masterpieces with deep narratives and unique mechanics. To dismiss them and reduce them to a single element shows a lack of understanding or appreciation for video games. Yes, many games might follow the conventions of similar genres, but that doesn't make them the same. Sony games, each in their way, offer a unique gameplay and narrative experience. Show me screenshots from 10 different Sony games. I'll immediately be able to distinguish and name each one. For instance, Days Gone, Death Stranding, Uncharted, and many other Sony games have given me entirely different emotions and experiences. Each project offers something unique, and that's hard to miss. Now, let's address another myth that sometimes pops up: the claim that Sony bans users just because. This myth is so absurd that it hardly deserves a lengthy discussion. Sony does not ban consoles without a reason. I've never encountered a single credible case where a console was banned without significant cause. Yes, some people buy secondhand consoles and discover that the device is banned, but that's an issue with dishonest sellers. If you buy a new console or a verified used one and don't engage in using unofficial software or fraud, you have nothing to worry about. Remember this: Sony doesn't ban consoles without reason. Account bans also don't happen out of nowhere. Yes, misunderstandings occasionally occur, but they're quickly resolved by contacting support. To get an account ban, you'd need to violate rules, like engaging in inappropriate behavior with other players, account fraud, using unofficial software, etc. For such actions, a ban is justified, and I would personally support such measures. If you behave appropriately, buy games honestly, and don't break online rules, you won't have any issues with bans, neither with your console nor your account. Unfortunately, such myths will continue to spread on the internet, and it's impossible to change everyone's opinion all at once. Some bloggers, active commentators in gaming communities, and those who intentionally or out of ignorance try to tarnish the platform only add fuel to the fire. People often talk about things they don't understand, inventing information that is far from reality. PlayStation fans criticize Xbox, while Xbox fans criticize PlayStation. Some speak unfavorably about the Nintendo Switch, and PC gamers criticize all console players. But every platform has its pros and cons. Some have certain games, while others have different ones. There's no point in arguing over such trivial matters. What difference does it make to what someone plays on? After all, we are all gamers, and that unites us. Games are our shared passion, and that's wonderful. Instead of creating camps, surrounding them with barricades and trading insults, we should come together and discuss what truly matters: the games themselves. After all, it's much more interesting to talk about what we love in these worlds than about what platform they run on. Feel free to share in the comments if you've encountered any other ridiculous myths. Perhaps I haven't yet delved into the strangest corners of the internet where these myths are born. See you in the next video.